The wine glasses clinked under the ornate chandelier as my family gathered for our monthly dinner at my uncle's lakefront estate in Minneapolis. The room, all dark wood paneling and oil portraits of people I didn't know, buzzed with their usual pastime, evaluating my life like it was a disappointing stock report. "Oh, Tessa," my Aunt Lorraine purred, adjusting her diamond cuff bracelet. "Still between projects?" Her voice oozed faux concern. I smiled politely and sipped from my water glass. The estate manager loomed nearby with the evening's courier delivery, a stack of tomorrow's newspapers and business journals as always. My cousin Jared, freshly promoted to senior analyst at a finance firm that barely made headlines, smirked. "Let me guess," he said, "another failed startup." I began, but Uncle Frank interrupted with a hearty snort. "Let's call it what it is," he said, slicing into his lamb. "She's unemployed. Again." His tone turned theatrical. What was it this time? Another dating app for dogs? If they had bothered reading any of the major business publications, they'd know that my company, Nova Frame Solutions, had just revolutionized biometric encryption. But I'd intentionally stayed behind the scenes, appearing in interviews under my middle name, Elise. Jared leaned forward. "You should have accepted that consulting offer at my firm. At least it was respectable. Could have taught you how real companies work," he added, puffing out his chest. I swallowed my grin. That very morning, Jared's firm had been quietly absorbed by Nova Frame in a calculated acquisition. He had no idea who'd signed the papers. "Tessa," my cousin Holly sighed across the table, "we just want you to think about your future. You're 32 now. That inheritance won't last forever." The inheritance they mentioned? Fully invested in Nova Frame's seed round years ago, that capital had since multiplied beyond anything they could imagine. "Remember when she turned down Stanford's MBA?" Aunt Lorraine whispered loudly. "Said she wanted to build software in her apartment. Like that was a real job." The estate manager stepped forward with a silver tray of tomorrow's periodicals. My aunt's favorite ritual for staying ahead in her social circle. Right on top, Forbes, cover facing down. "So," Jared said, smug again, "our stock went up last quarter. Big moves. You probably saw the profile in Forbes." Aunt Lorraine perked up. "Oh, Charles, do bring us that issue." He handed it to her. She flipped it over. There I was on the cover. CEO, visionary. The mind behind Nova Frame. The room went silent, except for my quiet sip of water. "I always enjoy staying informed on real business achievements," Aunt Lorraine said breezily. The estate manager paused, his eyes flicking to me for the briefest second. I gave him a slight nod. He'd figured it out months ago, after handling the occasional sealed documents and secure deliveries, addressed to Elise Harper, my public-facing name. Discreet as ever, he simply replied, "Of course, madam," and flipped the Forbes issue face up. The effect was instant. Aunt Lorraine dropped her fork. Jared coughed violently, wine splashing across his pressed shirt. My mother froze, her rose glass hovering mid-air. There, in sharp detail, was my face on the cover. The headline read, "Nova Frames Elise Harper, the code architect behind a $60 billion, 0 cents encryption breakthrough." Even better, the subheadline, "How a quiet developer from Minneapolis quietly conquered cybersecurity." "No mistake," I said softly, pulling out my phone and scrolling to Nova Frame's latest acquisition announcement. "Page 38 might interest you. It outlines the merger finalized this morning." I held the phone out to Jared. "Your firm's on the list." The silence was delicious. $60 billion, my mother whispered, her tone small for once. "Give or take a few, depending on the markets," I replied, finally letting my shoulders drop. Cybersecurity's a volatile field. Jared will be well aware, especially when he sees Monday's board memo. As if on cue, the estate manager began serving dessert, eyes twinkling just slightly. But before a single fork touched the table, every phone buzzed in near unison. The chorus of alerts swept across the room like a digital storm. Aunt Lorraine's manicured hands trembled as she read aloud. "Nova Frame acquires 5 industry giants in historic deal. CEO Elise Harper confirmed as architect behind the takeover." Jared's face went ghost white. His phone lit up with a new notification. This one from HR. Your new boss? He stammered. Not quite, I smiled, sipping my water. Technically, I'm your boss's boss's boss, but that may be temporary. Your position's under review after tomorrow's realignment. Aunt Lorraine's voice pitched up. But you've been unemployed, living in that cramped condo, driving that Honda. The cramped condo is the penthouse of the Nova Frame Tower, I replied evenly. I use the service entrance to avoid reporters. And the Honda is a custom-engineered EV prototype worth more than this entire estate. Uncle Frank, silent until now, finally cleared his throat. The Nova Frame Tower, Aunt Lorraine repeated slowly. You named it after yourself? I set my glass down carefully. No, I named it after Grandma Frances. The air in the room shifted. You remember her, don't you, Uncle Frank? I asked. The one you all said was losing it when she invested in my little garage project. The silence thickened. They remembered. They'd called her reckless. Said she'd been manipulated, mocked her decision to liquidate half her estate to back my encryption research. Now, her portrait hung in the lobby of the building that bore her name, standing 14 stories tall, lined with smart glass and AI-guided infrastructure, worth billions. Ever quick to recalibrate, Holly offered a syrupy smile. Tessa, darling, we always knew you were special. Remember when I tried to introduce you to that lovely data entry guy from the club? The one who could teach me some real tech skills? I smiled. Sure. He actually works for me now. Heads our junior dev unit. Still figuring out basic syntax. Mom's hand flew to her collarbone. That signature move when the situation slipped beyond her control. All those family dinners, she said faintly. We just wanted to help you find real work, I finished. Highly entertaining, really. Especially that time Jared spent an hour explaining market disruption right after Nova Frame disrupted his entire industry. The estate manager returned with coffee service, placing a fresh Wall Street Journal beside Aunt Lorraine. The headline caught in her throat. Nova Frame's Silent Empire, Tech's New Billionaire Breaks Cover. Jared stared at his HR email, pale and blinking. I don't understand. How did none of us know? How did you keep this secret? I leaned forward slightly, savoring every second. Because you never looked, I said. You saw what you wanted to see. A floundering cousin, a failed coder, someone to pity. Meanwhile, I was building something that would redefine everything. My phone buzzed. A message from my executive team lit up the screen. Stock surge triggered by acquisitions. Net worth up $15 billion. 0 cents. I angled the screen toward the table. The silence deepened. Now then, I said smoothly, shall we get to the real reason I came to dinner? Every gaze locked on me. From my modest tote, I pulled out a thin black tablet. Nova Frame's prototype foldable interface disguised as a clutch. I tapped twice. A hologram ignited above the dinner table, sharp and luminous. This, I said, is our neural interface platform. We're no longer just innovating AI. The projection shifted. Real-time biometric syncing, gesture control, seamless cognitive input. We're changing how humans live with technology, and it starts tonight. If you're just as curious as my family is about what happens next, stick around. Tap subscribe so you don't miss the moment Tessa unveils what the world wasn't ready for until now. Obsolete, I said calmly as the hologram rotated behind me. Jared's company, the one he'd flaunted all evening, was still fine-tuning touchscreens. Meanwhile, we'd quietly advanced to neural integration and cognitive command interfaces. But before the announcement goes public, I continued, watching their stunned faces bathed in the soft blue glow of the hologram, I thought it only fair to give you the courtesy of understanding your new roles. Roles? My mother echoed, her voice tight. Yes. I tapped the interface. You see, Grandma Frances didn't just believe in my research. She left instructions. Detailed, binding ones, regarding how the family would be involved in Nova Frame. Aunt Lorraine straightened in her seat, pearls gleaming as she tried to mask her calculation behind a polished smile. "What kind of involvement?" she asked carefully. "Simple." I let the stock valuation chart rise above the table. "You can keep your current lives entirely separate from NovaFrame, or," I paused, letting the tension stretch, "you can join the company." "At the top, I presume?" Jared offered hopefully. "No," I smiled. "At the bottom, entry-level positions, just like I started." Jared's jaw dropped. "I'm already a junior executive." "Where," I corrected, "your position was made redundant during acquisition, but I'm offering you the chance to earn a real role, one not handed to you, but built on merit." The estate manager began distributing slim black folders. Each contained a tailored report, their current finances, liabilities, and a proposed development path at NovaFrame. Uncle Frank squinted at his. "These stock options, they're worth more than my net worth." "They are," I confirmed, "but they come with expectations. No shortcuts, no family favors, no special treatment. You'll work under supervisors who don't care who your parents are. You'll clock in, contribute, and earn." Holly flipped her folder open, visibly panicking. "But it says relocation to Montana." "To our tech campus, yes," I said. "That's where innovation happens. No cocktail parties, no golf memberships, just cold mornings, real deadlines, and late nights chasing breakthroughs." My mother's hand trembled as she flipped pages. "Tessa, all those times we tried to help you." You were too busy worrying about how things looked," I said softly. "Grandma wasn't. She saw that real success isn't about appearances. It's about focus, vision, and the discipline to work in silence while everyone doubts you." I rose from my seat, brushing down my simple charcoal gray dress, lined with microscopic biometric threads we'd designed in-house. "Oh, and before I forget," I glanced at the hologram, then at them. "You have until midnight to decide," I announced, letting the last holographic prompt hover above the table. "Those who accept will report to orientation at the Montana campus on Monday morning. Those who don't—" I let the pause stretch, then smiled. "Well, you can always read about our progress in Fortune magazine." The looks on their faces were a study in shock, pride, and panic. Aunt Lorraine broke the silence with a sharp inhale. "And Jared's firm?" she asked. "Being restructured," I said simply. "The old hierarchy. Family ties, social pedigree, golf course connections, it's done. From here on out, only merit and innovation matter." My phone buzzed again. I glanced down. NovaFrame stock had surged another 20%. Rumors of our neural interface rollout were already starting to leak. I turned the screen toward them, letting them watch their fantasies of power slip away or solidify into something real, if they were willing to earn it. "Oh," I added, reaching for my tote bag, "and Aunt Lorraine, that comment earlier about me being unemployed, it just cost you roughly $3 billion in unvested stock options." Gasps echoed around the room. Decisions have consequences. I didn't wait for replies. As I stepped out into the cool Minneapolis night, I heard the chaos begin to swirl behind me. Arguments over roles, whispered recriminations, desperate calls to family lawyers and accountants. But I didn't turn back. I climbed into my plain black sedan, actually a fully autonomous prototype that wasn't even on the market yet, and smiled. I could almost hear Grandma Frances's voice again, gentle and firm. "Let them underestimate you, darling. The sweetest success is the one they never saw coming." My phone lit up once more, this time with a global headline. NovaFrame unveils next-gen neural tech. Innovation shocks industry, reveals secret billionaire founder. No, no longer, I thought, as the car pulled away from the estate. I wasn't heading to the modest apartment they all thought I lived in. I was headed to my real home, the penthouse lab atop NovaFrame Tower, where the future was already being built. Sometimes, success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about letting them slowly realize how right you were. And as for family dinners, let's just say they'd become far more selective. You'd need more than a last name to get a seat at the table. Because true innovation, like the best code, doesn't shout. It simply runs flawlessly, right when the world finally pays attention. Aunt Lorraine's response was perhaps the most unexpected. She didn't immediately accept or decline the offer. Instead, she requested a private meeting. When she arrived at NovaFrame Tower the next morning, the transformation was striking. Her pearls and tailored cocktail dress replaced by a simple gray business suit and low heels. "I couldn't sleep last night," she admitted, standing in my glass-walled office with something I'd never seen from her before: humility. I kept hearing Francie's voice, what she used to say about the difference between real worth and perceived worth. I gestured for her to continue, watching as her eyes drifted toward the skyline. From this height, her once imposing mansion looked like a dollhouse. "She tried to tell us," Lorraine murmured, "about you, about what was coming, but we were too busy measuring our worth in dinner invitations and investment portfolios." "And now?" I asked, pulling up her profile on my desk's interface. "No," she said with a slow breath. "I want to learn. Not for money, not to save face, because I finally get what Francis saw in you. Vision, the future." I studied her for a long moment. Then, silently, I pressed a hidden sensor on the desk. A concealed panel in the office wall slid open, revealing a corridor of glass and steel. She turned in awe as we stepped inside. "This," I said, "was Grandma Francis's final investment, a hidden lab she built in secret. Everyone thought she was remodeling her penthouse." Lorraine followed me in, eyes widening as she passed rows of quantum processors, neural sync hubs, and prototypes so advanced they made consumer tech look like ancient artifacts. "Welcome to NovaFrame's true headquarters," I said, tapping a console to activate a demo. "Your orientation starts now." My mother chose a different path. Her reply came in a handwritten letter, delivered by private courier, tear-streaked and tender. She declined a company position. Instead, she asked to establish a foundation in Grandma Francis's name to support young innovators like me, people with bold ideas but no backing. For once, she saw me for who I was, not who she wished I'd become. Uncle Frank, however, refused outright. His pride wouldn't allow him to start over. Word soon spread he'd launched his own startup. What he didn't know was that NovaFrame already owned the core patents he needed. His prototype wouldn't get past legal review. But something had shifted. They all began to see the world differently. Any plain-looking sedan might house a breakthrough. Any unemployed relative might be an undiscovered architect of the future. Our next family dinner wasn't held in Lorraine's home, but in the NovaFrame penthouse lab. The topic, not social gossip, but neural pathways, algorithm refinement, and quantum computing. Marcus had changed the most. 4 months into his entry-level role, he was thriving. "I get it now," he told me quietly. "Success isn't about seeming impressive." He smiled. "It's about building something real. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening, for witnessing, and for not turning away when the world I built finally came into view. I didn't create NovaFrame to get revenge. I created it because I believed in something no one else could see, not even my own family. So if you felt something as you watched them realize who I am, I'd love to hear it. Leave a comment. Tell me what you would have done in my place. Tell me who underestimated you. I want this story to spark more than just admiration. I want it to start conversations we've all been too afraid to have. And here's my advice, from someone who knows what it's like to be laughed at, overlooked, even pitied. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them mock you if they must. Just don't let them stop you. Build anyway. Dream anyway. Create in silence if you have to, but never stop creating. Because sometimes the greatest power comes not from proving them wrong with words, but with the undeniable weight of results. Hit subscribe if you believe quiet strength deserves a voice, because trust me, we're just getting started.